Hi, Archie.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Are you still in Taidung?
Yes.
Did you go sailing today?
Yes.
Was it fun?
Yes.
Did your sailboat fall over
No, but yesterday.
yesterday? When it fell over yesterday, were you scared?
No, but that was my first time.
Yeah. Was it fun?
Yes. I just swim to the beach.
Had your teacher told you what to do in case the boat falls over?
Yes. When it is like this, I just jump out of the boat. Then boom.
And then you swam to the beach?
Yes, and me and my friend.
Good.
Because me and my friend is on the same boat. When it is like this, and we two just jump out of the boat.
If you and your friend swim to the beach, then who rescues the boat?
The teacher. The teacher just ride the water. What's from me?
Did it jet ski?
He just ride the rescue boat to rescue us.
Okay, good.
And sometimes they just use the water motorcycle.
That's called a jet ski, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Jet ski.
Just jet ski.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you have a teacher there. Sounds very safe and very fun. And I'm going to go ahead and share my iPad screen with you. Okay. I looked for some pictures last night after we had our class. So I have some pictures to show you today. So I want to go back just a little bit. This was the page where Jack and Annie were pulled into the dance, that circle of the people that had the gold glittery skin and the wings on their back. And remember, a couple of things happened to Jack when he, what color can I use here? I want to use a color I haven't used before. A couple of things happened to Jack. I want you to notice how his glasses fell off, okay? And then also it said that his mind became a blur. And when Annie had said to him, look across the circle, he had said, I can't see. So literally, he could not see, but also figuratively, he could not think clearly because his mind had become a blur. So when his glasses fell off, what he was seeing was a blur, but when his mind became a blur, what he was thinking was also a blur. Blur is the opposite of clear. So seeing clearly, thinking clearly is the opposite of blurry. So I found these pictures. This is kind of fun. It's holding up a pair of glasses, and when you look through the glasses, they say it's clear vision. You can see clearly. And if you are not looking through the glasses, it would be blurry. I thought that was an interesting picture to show the difference between clear and blurry. So here, looking through the glasses, you can see the trees clearly, but if you're not looking through the glasses, then they are blurry. Now, you don't need to wear glasses. So for you, everything looks clear all the time. But this picture—
But sometimes blur.
Sometimes. This picture makes a lot of sense to me because I do wear glasses. and I only see clearly because my glasses are on. If I took them off, then you would look blurry to me. So clear and blurry are opposites. And so here the author was, I think, on purpose showing that when Jack's glasses came off, his physically with his eyes, literally, he was seeing blurry. He could not see clearly, but also in his mind, his thinking had gotten blurry. Everything was in a blur. He was not thinking clearly anymore. So that was one thing I wanted to show you. And then, let me see what else I wanted to show you. On page 44, we had talked about the word thicket right here. A thicket of bushes. So I wanted to show you what a thicket looks like. It can be a thicket of trees or a thicket of bushes. This is a thicket, and you can see all of the branches are all kind of like twisted together into almost like a big, into knots. And you can see how difficult it would be to walk through this. Here is a thicket in the trees, and you can see all these branches are really all twisted together, and it makes it very difficult to walk through them. And here's another example of a thicket. You can see how hard, you don't see a path here, so you can see how hard it would be to walk through a thicket. So when they left the 3 knights and were trying to head west to find the secret door, and they had to walk through this thicket, it was not easy. And I'm sure they were questioning, is this really the right way to go? Because this is not a path. This is hard work. And there was a paragraph here, this one right here, that I wanted to show you. I like to talk about how the author chooses her words very carefully to have power over our thinking and feeling, us the reader, when we are reading, when we are picturing the story in our mind and thinking about how do Jack and Annie feel and what do things look like. The choice of her words has a lot of power on us. So I want you to notice just a couple of the phrases that she chose. And I've made some notes for myself, so I'm going to look at those a little bit. She had ducked under, pushed past, thorns scraped, and twigs snapped against. When I think of those 4 phrases, I'm thinking to myself, this is not easy. This, even this is hard work. This even hurts a little bit. Thorns, those are sharp, pointy, almost like needles. They're sharp and they're pointy, and they come off the stems of rose bushes. They could scrape your skin and it would bleed, right? Those are really sharp. Thorns scraped their hands. Twigs like snapped back on their faces. These things would hurt. And if you have to duck under branches and push past bushes, you're not on a path, and you're getting scraped and you're getting your face snapped by twigs. This paragraph is telling me how this is not easy. It would take a lot of determination, perseverance. It would take a lot of mental strength to just keep on going. So that was one thing I noticed, how she chose those phrases very carefully in this paragraph. Looking at page 45, we had our chapter about the crystal cave. And I looked up a crystal cave, and I don't know if this is real or not. It kind of looks real. There's a person in it. But this was what I found when I looked for a crystal cave. Here's another one, and you can see how these crystals are reflecting light. So they're glittering, they're sparkling. Here's another look at a crystal cave, and you can see these crystals here that are sparkling in the light. Very pretty. Almost looks, you know, a word that comes to my mind, it's kind of a difficult word, but it's the word surreal, which means it hardly seems real. It just seems beyond real. Here is a crystal that looks like a diamond, but I want you to see how if you turn it in the light, it's really going to sparkle. And here is a crystal. Have you ever seen one like this? Or like this? These are called geodes. A geode is spelled like this. And it can look like a ball on the outside, but if you crack it open, it can look like this on the inside, the crystals. And here are some crystals that have been polished up and ready to be used maybe in a necklace. So on this page, I wanted to look at some of the words that the author used. So this is on page 45 and 46, here's some of the words that I noticed. Glittering, dancing streams of purple light. So the idea of light dancing. Gleaming, shimmering. So looking at what I found, I have brilliant crystal, gleaming, shimmering, glittering, and dancing light. These are a lot of different ways to express the idea of how pretty and beautiful and unusual this room is, this cave is, with the light just sparkling and everything just kind of shimmering, dazzling. It's really beautiful and unusual. So you'll really feel like it's very special. Moving on to page 48. In this chapter, Fire with Fire, I want to look at the words that she used to describe these kind of monsters or dragons. So she uses hissing, snorting, the stench, rotten stench. Here also about the dragons, balls of blue fire exploded from their mouths. So when I look at the words that she's using to describe the monsters or the dragons, the hissing, the snorting, the rotten stench, the balls of fire, the exploding, these are words that really make us feel not comfortable. They make us feel a little nervous. We feel that these monsters are not safe. They are not friendly. They are a little scary. And so she's using her word choice very carefully to affect how we're feeling. She's not making them sound like, you know, Puff the Magic Dragon or a, you know, sweet unicorn. It's very enough to make us step back and feel like, what do we do? What do we do? So she can make us feel that way by the choice of words that she chooses. Okay, I wanted to look at 49. One of the things I found really interesting is after they drank the water of memory and imagination, the reason they did that was because Annie was thinking maybe it will help us imagine, use our imagination to help us imagine how we can solve this problem or get out of this situation. You know, they're facing 4 monsters, which I also wondered, you know, I wonder why the author chose 4. I wonder why she had 4 doorways and 4 monsters? Why didn't she choose 2 or 3 or 5? I found that kind of interesting. I would like to think about that a little bit more. Or if I ever got to meet the author, that is a question I would ask her. But then I think, okay, so they're surrounded by these 4 monsters. This is a big problem. They have their cup of water. They need to leave, but these dragons or monsters are in the way. They do not look friendly. They do not want them to leave. And Annie's thinking, okay, we can drink this water and it will help us imagine a way out. But then they each imagined something different. So, you know, she says to him, she says, imagine that we're saved. And so Jack closed his eyes, okay, and he tried to imagine being saved. So what he pictured the four keepers crawling back through their doorways. And that is true, okay, that happened. But he did not imagine this fight that they had. We're going to learn in a minute that Annie did imagine that. But Jack only imagined the 4 keepers crawling back through their doorways. And then let's see what happened. Annie said, okay, ready to fight? And he's like, what? That's not what I imagined. I imagined the 4 keepers or these dragons just turning around and crawling back through their doorways. That's what he was expecting. That's what he imagined. So Jack did not imagine how it was going to happen. He imagined the end result. He imagined how he wanted it to end up, but not how they were going to get there. He was not imagining, what can we do to make this happen? He only imagined, what do I want to happen at the end? It's like he was imagining the solution, but not the events, right? So they have the problems, the monsters. So he imagines the solution where they crawl back into their 4 doorways. But he really did not imagine the events of what can he and Annie do to solve the problem. So when she says, ready to fight, he's like, what? Fight? And then she puts the cup down on the floor and says, now. It's like no time to think. Suddenly, he felt like he'd been hit by a bolt of lightning, which to me is like magic, like something magical just happened. And just like when he started dancing in that circle, all of a sudden his fears slipped away magically, right? He went from being someone who is cautious and careful and likes to think about things and plan. And all of a sudden he had no fear. He was filled with strength and fury. Fury is like being angry. And without thinking, now again, this has got to be by magic because this is not Jack. Jack always thinks. But here, without thinking, he lunged towards the wood in the fire where the cauldron is sitting on the fire. And underneath the cauldron, he grabbed a piece of wood that was on fire with the purple flame. And they grabbed it and they start battling these monsters who are breathing blue flame. So it's this fire versus fire, the purple versus the blue. But this sounds very scary and dangerous. And here's Jack battling like a dragon with fire, and he's not scared. He's brave, and he does not have any fear. I think that had to be by magic, but that did not come from his imagination. His imagination was only about how it was going to end, with the dragons backing away and then going back into their doorways. One of the things I thought about when I looked at this paragraph again, where it starts out by saying, without thinking, I thought to myself, you know, there's a life lesson here. It is true that in life, sometimes we just need action. You know, there are some people who are very good at planning and at thinking, but not so good at doing. You know, we sometimes say there are planners and there are doers. There are the people who like to make plans and there are the people who like to do them. And Jack is probably more of a planner and Annie is more of a doer. But sometimes there are situations in life where maybe we need to just act, right? And not sit and make a long plan, but just, you know, do it, get it done. And here is what Jack did. Well, it's going to turn out, we're going to see here in a minute, that Annie had a little something to do with this, because just as Jack was using his imagination, so was Annie, because she also drank the water. So let's take a look here, because we just finished right here. So we're going to go to the beginning of chapter 13, and we're going to find out what Annie had been imagining when she drank the water. This chapter is called Your Horses Are Waiting. I don't believe what just happened, said Jack. What part don't you believe? Said Annie, holding the silver cup. Jack laughed and shook his head. I don't believe any of it, he said. I don't believe any of it, he said. Annie laughed too. That was cool, huh? Jack pushed his glasses into place and stared at her. Seriously, what just happened in there? He asked. He's got to be thinking, how did I do that? What did I just do? Me, Jack, battling a dragon? Waving fire? Jack pushed his glasses into place and stared at her. Oh, I just read this, but I'll read it again. Seriously, what just happened in there? He asked. And now we're going to find out what Annie imagined. I imagined us fighting the keepers with flaming swords. That was Annie's idea, said Annie. What did you imagine? Jack shrugged. I just imagined the keepers going back in their holes, he said. I think it's interesting that Jack kind of imagined the solution, but Annie imagined the events. Annie imagined the how are we going to do this? And Jack imagined what do I want the end to be? So they really worked well together as a team. I think it is helpful to have both a planner and a doer working together. Let me write that down here. Someone who likes to make plans would be a planner, and someone who likes action and likes to do things, we would call a doer. And you can see that both of these have the suffix er on the end. When we add er to the end of a word, it can mean somebody who does this. So a doer is somebody who does things. A planner is somebody who plans things. We could have other examples such as a swimmer. We take the word swim and add er. So a swimmer
Runner.
is someone who swims. What's that?
Runner.
Yeah, we could have someone who runs is a runner. So we add that er on the end. So planners plan, doers do. Jack is a planner, Annie is a doer. Annie says, good, we both got what we imagined. Yeah, said Jack, smiling, but what you imagined made a much better story. A shriek of fury came from inside the cave. Who would that be? Who is still inside the cave?
The guards of the water.
Yeah, the keepers of the cauldron, right? Those dragons or monsters. Yikes, said Annie. Let's get out of here, said Jack. He scrambled to his feet and together they climbed back down over the big rocks to the thicket. Okay, remember that thicket, so it's not easy to go through a thicket. Annie moved very carefully to keep from spilling the water in the cup. That must be very difficult. When they came to the thicket, Jack pulled out Sir Percival's compass. If we came west to get here, we have to go east to get back. That makes sense, he said. East is that way. So he looks at his compass, sees which direction is east, and says, let's go that way. As they started into the wild growth, this would be the thicket where the branches and the roots are all growing kind of in wild directions, just getting all tangled up. Jack went first so he could clear the way for Annie. Without talking, they pushed steadily through the trees and bushes, moving farther and farther from the keeper's cave. Finally, they heard music in the distance. They walked closer and closer toward the sound until they stepped back into the green glade. The winged dancers were still there, dancing in their magic circle. Jack's heart raced. He wanted to join them again. This is very interesting to me. Jack's heart raced. When our heart races, it means that we're feeling pretty strongly about something. We really want it. We're very excited about something. What was he excited about? What did he want? He wanted to join the dancers again. Now, that's interesting to me because he has learned that that is not a good thing. He has learned that if he gets into that dance, he will lose his memory. He will forget why he is there. He will not even be like himself anymore. He will be someone who doesn't think clearly. He will be someone who stops thinking at all. He will be someone who just isn't him. He just will keep going and going and going and not be able to stop. So he knows that it's not a good idea, but he still wants it. I find it interesting that even though he knows it's dangerous, it's not good, there's a part of him that still wants that. Why do you think he still wants that? Oh, your microphone's off.
Because he hears the sound will make him want to dance again.
Mm-hmm. I think part of it is that sound almost puts a spell on you. So there's kind of a magical element here. I think another part is that there's, it must have felt pretty amazing to him to be so happy and have no fear and no worry at all. And maybe he wants to feel that way again. Maybe it was such an amazing feeling that he's like, oh, wouldn't it be great to feel like that again? But it says he knew that if he did, he would never escape their dance. So thinking clearly, he stayed clear of the dance. Look, said Annie, the knights are awake. Sir Lancelot, Sir Galahad, and Sir Percival were standing just beyond the circle of dancers. They were buckling on their swords. That means they were putting the swords onto their armor. Hi, called Annie. Guess what? We got it. The knights walked shakily. This means they're still not really steady on their feet. Okay, they still must not really be well. I think they need some time to rest and heal. Toward Jack and Annie. They still looked thin and tired, but color had returned to their cheeks. So they are feeling a little better. We have the water of memory and imagination, said Annie. She held up the silver cup. The knights smiled. Now we just have to get it back to Camelot, said Jack. We would like to help you, said Sir Lancelot. But it seems we have lost our 3 horses. No, you haven't, said Annie. Your horses are waiting for you. They're on the other side of the hill, said Jack. Jack and Annie led the knights over the hill. On their way, Jack picked up the red velvet cloak. When they came to the meadow, they saw the 3 horses. I wonder what would have happened if they had had the red cloak when they went into the crystal cave. I wonder if they would have been able to walk up to the cauldron in the red cloak, invisible to the monsters, and gotten their cup of water and left without those monsters or dragons ever seeing that they were there at all. I wonder if that might have been possible. Except, remember that the cauldron was too high, and so they couldn't just stand there and reach in. And
if the cup is not inside the red cloak, the monsters will see the cup.
oh, good point. You're right, good point. Okay.
And the compass.
Right. Good thinking. Okay, so they came to the meadow. They saw the 3 horses. The horses neighed, go neigh. It's hard to say this word neighed because it's really a neigh. And cantered, which is a word we use for how horses run, over to the knights. As Sir Lancelot stroked the mane of the black horse, he turned to Jack and Annie. You can both ride back to Camelot with me, he said. Thanks, they said. Jack fastened the red cloak around his neck. Sir Lancelot helped them onto the back of his horse, then climbed on himself. Annie sat behind Lancelot. She held on to the knight with her right hand. She held the silver cup in her left hand. Can you carry the water without spilling it? Jack asked her, worried. I'll try, she said. Sir Galahad mounted the brown horse. Mounted means he got onto the horse. And Sir Percival climbed on the gray horse. Then the 3 knights started through the pale green meadow. So they have not crossed the bridge yet. I think when they cross the bridge, it is not going to be a pale green meadow anymore. I think it will be more snowy and icy and gray and dark and nothing green. Careful, careful, Jack whispered to Annie. I got it, she said. When they came to the iron gate, the knights drew their swords. Open the gate in the name of King Arthur of Camelot, Sir Lancelot called. Though he still sounded hoarse, the knight's deep voice carried an amazing strength. He must be an amazing knight. And when he says something, I think people listen. Here's a picture of them arriving at the iron gate. You can see Sir Lancelot and his horse, the armor that's on the horse's head.
Maybe the Christmas night was Sir Lancelot.
Well, maybe, except that Sir Lancelot had the same problem that Sir Galahad and Sir Percival did. He was stuck in that dance. I don't think he was able to break away, turn into the Christmas night, go on another mission, and then come back and then go back into the dance again. So I think probably he's not the Christmas knight. I don't think we've really figured out who the Christmas knight is yet. But I'm waiting to find out.
But the horse's dress was the same as the Christmas night's horse's dress.
Well, it might be that all horses had this kind of dress back then in this type of, in this medieval setting. It's hard to say, but I think that it could have been the style that they had for all horses, especially a horse of a knight. but we'll have to see. I don't think that we've had that question answered yet. So I'm still watching and waiting to see who was the Christmas knight. The iron gate slowly swung open. Sir Lancelot urged his horse onward. The guards watched silently as the knights passed by them and started across the bridge. The three horses trod in single file over the wooden planks. Again, Jack was amazed by the difference between this world and the other world. Okay, that comparison, just think about the color, right? In the other world, it's green and colorful and lots of life. It's warm, it's beautiful, sunny. And then in Camelot, it is just black, gray, white, no color. It's icy and it's cold and drafty. Here, it was dark and freezing and foggy. So these are some really good words to describe Camelot, the difference between, okay, so the author's pointing out the difference between this world, Camelot, and the other world. The red cloak flapped in the bitter wind. I was thinking how interesting it is in Camelot, as I picture in my mind Jack and Annie's flight on the stag when they first left Camelot and headed off on their mission, on their quest. If everything around them is white,
I just thought the white stag will come back.
Well, let's see. I think that would be interesting. I was thinking about how when they first left Camelot, when they left King Arthur and they were on the stag and they were heading off on their mission, everything around them was snowy and white.
Maybe the white stag will come back to rescue them back to Camelot.
Well, let's see. I want to just make one comment and then I'll keep reading. Do you remember when they were on the stag and they were leaving Camelot? Everything around them was snow and white and black and gray, and there wasn't any color, right? It was winter and it was frozen and it was icy and snowy, right? The only color we would have seen in a picture was the red cloak that Jack and Annie were wearing. And I'm sure that would be a really striking picture for a painter like your mom to paint, because everything around them would have been white snow, kind of the brown or black or gray branches of trees that have no leaves on them, ice, rocky mountains that are just kind of that brown and gray rock, and then and everything covered with kind of a white snow or ice, and then the color of red on the long flowing cloak on Jack and Annie as they flew through the woods and the mountains on that white stag. Even the stag was white. So the only color at all was that red velvet cloak that Jack and Annie had. And I'm sure that color on the backdrop of all of the whiteness was very vivid and striking. And it would be very interesting, I think, for a painter or an artist to show that picture in color. The only color you would really see is the cloak. So let's see. As the horses, so here the red cloak flapped in the bitter wind. This is the only color you would really see. Everything's white now, okay? As the horses stepped off the bridge, they each neighed loudly. "Oh, wow," whispered Annie. Standing high on a rock in a swirl of fog was, you're right, the white stag. So here I was looking for a picture of a white stag, and I found this one as a painting or a drawing, and I found this one which almost looks real. I don't know if it is, but that was something that I found when I was looking for a white stag. Okay, so we're going to stop here, and our next chapter is going to be called dun 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 dun, return. What do you think they're returning to? What do you think it is? Returning to what? Oh, your microphone is off.
Returning to Frog Creek.
Well, do you think they're going to go straight to Frog Creek, or do you think they're going to stop in Camelot first?
Stop at Camelot first
Yeah,
to rescue someone.
right, right. So, Archie, really great to see you today. This is continuing to be a very exciting story. And I want to say
So long, Trader Sid.
bye, Archie.